Welcome to the Mobile Economy Podcast. This week we're working our asphalt off. I have special guest Becky Hanner from Mobiles and Hanner Commercial Assets with us. Today we're talking about how to best utilize the asphalt at your parking lots. This episode of the Mobile Economy Podcast, we're going to be talking about how to work your asphalt off. What does that mean? Well, with Mobiles, we throw a lot of events. I'm going to play the part of the party thrower this episode. We got Becky representing the property in this equation, and coming up later in the episode, we have Patrick with the food truck perspective. So what do we mean by working your asphalt off? Well, around every commercial property, there's a lot of asphalt, and those can be used for throwing events. Our company, Mobiles, ends up throwing a number of events. Like this Saturday, we have one for about 2,000 people that will be showing up at one of our properties. So a couple tips that we have if you want to see how to better utilize your property is, when you go to do an event, first of all, don't plan for something for 2,000 people as your first event. Kind of ease into it. You don't need to throw Coachella or a big Burning Man type of event at your property as your first go out. Why? Because of our tip number one, something's going to go wrong. Every event we ever do, we have got something that we had planned for that doesn't go quite the way that we had hoped it to. And that's just part of it.
Sort of the same idea as a soft opening. If you're going to open up a restaurant, you have a soft opening first so you can get all the glitches out.
Exactly. So one of our big events is a group that's called Cars and Coffee. And we're responsible for making sure that people have the coffee and breakfast to eat when they show up. Well, at one of our events a couple months ago, the event called Cars and Coffee had plenty of cars, and the coffee vendors had to cancel at the last minute. That's when you kick in Plan B, Plan C, Plan D. Make sure you have those backup plans in the works for when you have something like that going on.
And that's Property Management 101. Any property manager knows they have to have backup plans, and the property managers expect any of their service providers to have that as well. So the mere fact that Mobiles has Plan B, Plan C ready to go, so that no one even knows there's going to be any glitches in the background, is what property managers really need to have, is somebody that they can rely on like that.
Yeah, and we do have a great asset, which is we've got a lot of contacts. We have cell phones, we have push notifications, we have SMS capability that allow us to work with the backup vendors when something like that happens at 6 o'clock in the morning. And we had thought about a number of different contingencies. The other event that we had, which was last month, that the contingency plan we had for that was it was just very cold. So it was, you're on asphalt and you're in a high wind situation, and the wind temperature was about 25-30 degrees when we set up in the morning. That was a cold morning. Mm-hmm. But we had contingency plan in place for what to do, such as we did not set up the tent when we had high winds. There were a lot of vendors at the event who thought they could still set their tents up with 25 mile an hour gust. That doesn't work very well on an asphalt parking lot when you can't peg them down. So you need to have contingency of what to do for the rain, for the wind.
And the more practice you have at it, obviously Mobiles does so many events that, we just know because we've been there before, we've done it before, so we're ready to rock and roll. We know what to do and what to advise the other vendors, advise them as to what they can and cannot do at the property.
And that's a big piece of it. Be in contact with your vendors. Make sure that you've got a good relationship with the vendors that you're going to have there so that when something like weather changes last minute, you can get a hold of them. And that's part of, not to get too salesy, but that's part of our platform is being able to manage that contact information, to get out to people, to be able to have that communication with the vendors, with the food trucks that are going to be servicing the event.
Mm-hmm. So. And let's talk a little bit about, the parking lot in general, if you don't mind. So my background, as you know, long time property management, my entire career, over 30 years in property management and asset management. And I really look at a parking lot as a blue ocean. You can do anything out there. Now, I know that usually the issue is there enough parking for the building occupants? But the trend in real estate is changing so much. I mean, property managers are more event managers than ever before because they're expected to help the tenants be able to attract the very best employees to their place of employment. And all of it's all about events. So if you have the right type of property, the property you're talking about with coffee and cars has apartments next to it. It's a 3 million square foot office park. It's perfect for a 2,500 person event on the weekends. And it brings everybody in and makes it more of a community. So just think about it. If you had a mixed use property, you would be all about having things happen every day, every weekend day, every evening. You would want it to be the happening place. And that's transforming into office parks because you want people to come back to the office even on the weekend. If it's something like this, look at how many people are coming back. The 2,500 people are coming over to their property for this coffee and cars events. So truly, the parking lot is a blue ocean, and if you can use your creativity and thought process on what can happen. I mean, what if you had a pet event on a property on a weekend day? How cool would it be to have a dog groomer, a veterinarian, a barkery, to sell treats for the pets.
And adoption event.
Yes, adoption. Yeah, great idea. I mean, these would bring people onto the property and it would create more of a sense of community and be exciting for the people that work there during the week, and they'd be coming in there, making them realize that the office really is a place to be, that they really don't want to just stay at home all the time and work. They want to come back to the office. And that's what the tenants want, and that's what the property owners want because they want their tenants to want to come back.
We keep hearing from the tenants that they need productivity out of their people, and that's what their space needs to be configured for, is this high level of productivity, but they also want to reward the people that are coming in that are highly productive, and that's why we see so many food events. We've also done a number of blood drives and other events at the properties, but I'm really seeing that so many of the property managers that we have dealt with here for the years, they have always had the number of parking spots per thousand memorized. That is something that is kind of universal. It's the first thing people look at when they go on LoopNet or CoStar or any of those services to look at property. Nowadays, those property managers are also becoming cruise directors because they're having to play the role of this event manager, and that's one of the things that we keep hearing, which is from mobile prospects and mobile customers, which are, what events can we do? What makes sense? And to answer that question, there is a lot, and that's why the purpose of this episode is to talk about how to utilize the outdoor space, because it is sometimes overlooked how much activity you can do outside and bring people from multiple businesses. So if you've got a property that's got multiple tenants, it's very hard to get enough participation today from one tenant. But when you can take, as we do with some of our properties, you take 6 tenants that have got people back in the office and you bring those people together, it's a much more successful event. And about that is making sure that you are marketing that event far enough in advance and getting the word out about it. And we do that a lot with social media, email, text message, push notification, and one of the best things is very old school, 11 by 17 printouts on the doors of the buildings themselves so that people see them. And that is something we have noticed that definitely works out well, is when you've got the notification to the occupants of the building that they are aware of when the event is, so that they don't have alternate lunch plans if you're doing a lunch event or if you're doing a breakfast event. What you don't want to do is have a breakfast and donut day and have everybody show up with a bag of bagels or donuts in their hand coming through to your event and going, no, sorry, I already ate or got my coffee.
Oh, people love to look at their app in the morning and see what's happening at the property so that they'll know whether they should bring their lunch in or make lunch plans. I mean, it works out really well. Yeah,
but the communication's definitely the key to having an event like that.
And you talked about, how many people are at the building. It also helps a lot if if there's a tenant that will sponsor an event for their employees, because they want to really encourage to get the employees in. So let's just say you've got one very large tenant in a building, and if they say, yeah, I'd absolutely love to help sponsor something, I would, we'll give each employee, a free lunch if they go to this, if they come in today, and if you've
Yeah.
got food trucks and some other things going on, maybe they're doing a stick and stuff, which is, you mentioned a minute ago about
Right.
the blood drives. That's what we like to call our blood drives, stick and stuffs, because you can go ahead and give blood and you can get food. So if someone's sponsoring something like that, if every employee that gives blood gets a free lunch, well, all of a sudden, people love community events.
Yeah.
They'll come in and they'll do that.
Yeah, it's much easier to fill the roster if you're offering people get a free box of empanadas or a lobster roll if you give blood. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
More than a free cookie.
Right.
Hey y'all, Eric had talked about things from a property manager's perspective, and what I'm going to talk about briefly is from the vendor perspective. More importantly, from the food truck perspective, we love our food trucks. So property managers have mobiles to kind of help them plan events and work through any issues. And a lot of the times what happens is they want to do these events and they need trucks. And that's kind of where we come in. So what I'd like to kind of talk to you guys about is how we make that connection, right? So, for example, let's say a property manager comes to us and says, hey, I've got an event. I've got 50 people and I want box lunches. I don't care what kind of cuisine. I need it dropped off. I need utensils and drinks included. Okay, so what we would do is we would go through our database of trucks and see where we can make that kind of a connection. So think of it like maybe those old school shows where the love guru would get the information from somebody and then they would go into their database and try to find a connection. I guess right now it would be more like an app. So we're like Tinder, but not really. Okay, so
do we swipe right on the food truck?
Well, I don't know how it all works. I don't remember.
Okay.
Do you swipe right if you like it?
That's why I can't remember either. So I'm guessing that, luckily our producers are nodding at us that yes, we got the right nomenclature there.
So we got to swipe right.
So the empanada truck, boom.
Boom.
Right.
Okay.
Barbecue truck, always. Now, if you like the barbecue truck a lot, do you just swipe right or do you also send them flowers?
I would think you would send them flowers.
I would send the barbecue truck flowers.
Absolutely. So we make the connection, okay? So now there are some things that would help make our connections better, because what we do is we'll take the recommendations and present them to the property managers to make sure that everything is connected, right? So one thing that you could do for the food trucks is keep your social media up to date. Like, you don't need to do a reel or a post every day, but if the last post on your Instagram or Facebook is from your grand opening 5 years ago, it's a difficult pitch, okay? Along those same lines, have some pictures of your food, okay? Part of our job at Mobiles is going out to the food trucks and trying the food. We know your food is good. We know what it looks like. We know what it tastes like. But having those kind of visual representations on your platform will help us make a connection better. Because once a property manager announces to the tenants that they're going to have a certain food truck on site, people immediately go and take a look.
The food truck has to have a good presence because it's easier for us to get you the gigs when we've got the good resources.
Absolutely.
That's, the menu, the pricing, what the food looked like. Hopefully we've tried the food. Those type things have really helped us be able to recommend who is the best truck, for a given event.
Right.
And sometimes we're asked for events for, 50 people, sometimes for 300 people. So, what's your recommendation when we have, those different degrees from the truck perspective?
Well, part of what the information we get from the trucks too is kind of knowing what your capabilities are. Some trucks are geared towards being able to handle a huge amount of people, and some are smaller. But again, that's based off of the information that we get from you. So kind of along those lines, if your menu changes or if you have different options for bulk or things like that, keep us in the loop. Just kind of let us know, drop us a line, and that's information that we can keep in our database. And then when we're reaching out to the property managers, we can kind of give them that information as well. Okay.
Yeah.
And here's a trick. So again, you're having the business, you're going to these different events. You don't have necessarily time to take all of the pictures, right? But what you can do is go and do a search for your business on social media or Facebook. A lot of the times your customers or even the food bloggers will have pictures of your food that you can take and you can just post it right there on your stories, or just as a random post every once in a while. Things like that will kind of help you get those gigs, and it'll also just kind of help your business as well. It's a very, again, we're in the relationship business. So like anything that we can do to help you is going to help us as well.
That's right. I mean, what we want to do is have events and have people show up, get fed, have a good time. That's the whole goal, and that's why we work with the food trucks as our mobile service vendor for the food services.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
All right. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you for watching our video today. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel here so that you get notification whenever we post new videos. If you're on Instagram, be sure to go follow us on Instagram as well as Facebook. We appreciate your support.